Welcome back to my channel. Don't know why that was so awkward. So I was looking on, I think I was on Instagram, and I've been really posting and putting a lot of love into Instagram recently, and I came across this common theme of people explaining their weight loss journey. So this video will be explaining how I lost 112 pounds. So in total that is just under 8 stone. And my journey with the whole fat loss, weight loss, and how I got there. So I have to explain the whole story to explain how I got to this point. So let's fast track. As a child, I wasn't necessarily the most, I was like a healthy balance. So I used to dance, and I used to do all the PE classes, so physical education classes in school, and then I joined all the clubs. So about year 2, I was just like in near enough football, tag rugby, netball, everything you can think of in primary school. And that followed through to secondary school, where I still continued to dance with a dance school outside of school. And then I decided it was a good idea to join netball, football, hockey, rounders in school, so in year 7. And generally my eating up until that point was just generally like any other kid. I was never restrictive, never, like, I love chocolate, as everyone knows, and that's my thing. So like it was never just like really unhealthy, but there was like a really good healthy balance. So when I was 10 years old, I got diagnosed with a thyroid condition, which I made another video about, but then obviously that contributed to weight gain. So at about 13, 14, I was weighing in at about 14 stone. And yes, that doesn't seem like a lot, that isn't a lot, but when you are about 4'10" and you're weighing in at that, and you aren't necessarily feeling the most comfortable in your body at such a young age, it can be really difficult. So at around about 15, 14, I started dabbling into jogging, and obviously I was very active with all the school clubs, but I never necessarily started to actually think about food like that. I used to just eat whatever my mum used to cook, and she's a really good cook, so she cooks fresh like 5-6 days a week. One day is her version of not fresh, is like pasta, but everything she cooks is wholesome. And I used to eat everything, so gluten, dairy, McDonald's. I used to eat Mary chicken before dance, like that was my pre-workout, whatever you want to say. And I used to eat, you know, takeaway, pizza, Chinese, like anything. And then at around about 17, 18, so when I was in 6th form, I really struggled with my weight. Now I know a lot of females do feel like this, but I generally was really not confident, and because I was so overweight in school, I didn't necessarily, like, I was always friends with a pretty girl or the girl that everyone fancied in school, and you know, I was basically one of the guys, which was fine because I like being like that anyway, but it was just like, oh, I was an afterthought. Like, I was never necessarily the slimmest or the skinniest. I was always slightly on the bigger side. I carried extra weight, and I couldn't understand why. I used to eat McDonald's a lot, and I used to love a mayo chicken and a McFlurry and a vanilla milkshake and fries, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then when I went to university, so I must have been about 18, so I was 18, I was 3 weeks after being 18, I actually decided it was time to try and take a new approach. Now, up until that point in 6th form, I was very active. I used to dance, and then suddenly in 1st year of university, I didn't really exercise as such. I used to dance again in uni, but that wasn't not necessarily a lot, and I used to walk a lot more, so I was a lot more hungry. And when you go to university for the first time, I don't know if anyone else can relate, but I never really cooked at home before, so I used to just live off chicken Kievs, M&S meal deals, because they were like 3 for £10. Yeah, McDonald's, takeaway. I didn't really eat a lot of no, to be fair, I did. Ben and Jerry's, anything I wanted, and it wasn't almost controlled at home, but because obviously you only have like one tab a week, we had this, like, you weren't in charge of what you were eating when you were eating, so it was very much a sense of I was just eating what I could. And at university I'd literally eat like a pack of like 3 packs of M&Ms of all different flavors and just live my best life in first year. And then second year came and I realized I was putting on a lot of weight. Now I think this was partly due to the pill, and also I went to the gym once a week and probably went on the cardio machine. I used to walk a lot of places. I did dance, and then I was really uncomfortable in my own skin. As soon as I step out the shower, like I'd put on a towel. It was a really hard time because I was struggling with it and I didn't want people to know. So back then as well, I had a really bad skin condition on my face. So I used to just be all the time glammed up so no one could see. I used to do the strongest contour because I had no cheekbones, no facial shape. And it was just a time where I loved, and also in first year of university, I did drink alcohol, and second year I kind of transitioned off. I was like, do you know what? This isn't sitting right with me. I don't feel right after drinking. There's something obviously wrong here. So then third year came and I went to India. Now I kind of started to go gluten-free in second year of university. So that was 3 years ago now. But then I went to India and I contracted ecoli. Now, if anyone doesn't know ecoli, it's actually like a really, really severe form of food poisoning, and it really, really scared me. So literally I couldn't keep anything down. The only thing I could keep down was kettle chips lightly salted, okay? Like I couldn't even have water. And at that point, they were testing all of me, like bloods, everything else, you know, urine. And then they realized that I actually had an allergy. And at the end of second year, I really did cut out dairy. And I used to have, you know, a bit of cheese or a bit of this and a bit of that. But then when I went to India, I was like, do you know what? I'm by myself. I went out there by myself and I was like, I want to literally eat how I want to eat. So then I started opening my mind to seeing how, like in India, how they literally, if you want chicken nuggets, they would bread the chicken nuggets there. And up until that point, I always ate meat. As soon as I went out there, I was like, do you know what? Once I got ecoli, I was like, I do not want to eat meat anymore. And it wasn't the fact that I'm like, oh yeah, meat's really bad. I still eat fish. But it was the fact that I was seeing chickens and then seeing chicken on my plate. It didn't sit right with me. And obviously I've got no problem with anyone eating chicken. Like, that's your business. But when I was out there, it really, really made me open my eyes. And I actually really wanted to become vegetarian at like 14, but my mum was like, no. Anyway, when I was in India, I was MMA training, so in an MMA gym. And that was my first type of, okay, cool, I'm going 5-6 times a week here, I'm doing circuit training, I'm kind of dabbling with weights, but not necessarily. And it would make me so exhausted, and I was literally living off like buckwheat and watermelon and all this fresh fruit and veg, and I absolutely loved it. And once I had recovered from E. coli, it took about a month to 6 weeks. I was out there for near enough 5-6 months, and it really, really opened my eyes to, okay, cool, how are we eating, what are we eating, why are we eating that? Then so obviously up until that point, I then got told out there that I was allergic to gluten. And there is massive debates about thyroid, the linkage between thyroid and gluten. And obviously this video is not about that. If you want to obviously see a video like that, I'll happily make one, just leave me a comment down below. But I then really realized, okay, so dairy, literally I can't have, and gluten, I literally can't have. I don't eat meat, there isn't a lot of options. And for me, food was just a means of fueling my body. Like I literally just ate and I'd be like, oh yeah, it was all right. I didn't enjoy my food. It's really, really weird concept to say mentally, but I genuinely didn't sit there and think, oh, like, obviously I did have nice meals and I was like, oh, that's nice, you know, but it wasn't necessarily a big forefront. So coming back from India, I probably was, I went from a UK size 18 when I was 15 to a UK size 14 by the end of sixth form, so that was 2 years later. When I went to India, I was about 14, 16, and then ever since, so for the last 3 years, I've moved from a 14 to a 12 to a 10 to an 8, now to an 8-6, and that's where my body's sitting comfortably. And sorry, I have to think about this like now, how it's done this. So I've come back from India and I've lived at home for a while, and I've really, really started to hit the gym hard. And this is when I started to be on meal plan and started hitting weights properly, like not just with my 20 kilo bar or whatever it was. Understood the importance of weight training and how it could benefit me mentally. And then I went back to uni to finish my final year. And in that year, I really decided I wanted to be as small as possible. I had an obsession with being small. I had an obsession with being just, because I had always been on the larger side. I just wanted to be small, small, small. It wasn't really about muscles or muscular development. It was very much like I wanted to be small, I wanted to be skinny, I want to have a smaller waist, I want to have smaller thighs. You know, like most girls publicise, and I used to sit there on Instagram, and it's so unhealthy to think about it now, but I used to screenshot girls on my phone and think, I want a body like this, I want a body like that. And it was actually so bad. Like, now I think about it, it's actually really obsessive. So in final year of university, I decided it was a good idea to try and limit my carbs, which was not advised, but I would have, like, now I think about it, like 100 grams of sweet potato a day or 75 grams of avocado. And what? And I'd have oats in the morning and that was it. And it was just, I had a really difficult relationship with food and with weight training as well. Then I started hypertrophy training in the morning, so that's like higher reps, higher frequency, and then powerlifting in the evening, but my nutrition was the same. And I don't know if you know, but that's something called overtraining, and that literally fatigues your muscle. You cannot get muscle growth, whatever. And then I've understood at that year, 10 months in my life, I actually damaged my metabolism so badly. So now, it's taken me, so this time last year I was a comfortable 8 on top and bottom, and now I'm actually a 4 on top, but I wear a 6. And last time I weighed myself officially, I was 57.5 kilos, and that was like 4 months ago. So I'm at a really comfortable stage to say I've been through the journey, and now I weight train. So for the last 3 years, I weight train at least 4 to 5 times a week, and I cardio 2 to 3 times a week. And this is purely my preference. Optimally, for muscle development and muscle, you know, progress, it should be 2, 3, for someone on my size, 3 to 4 maximum, or 3 really heavy and 1 slightly lighter, which I'm doing at the moment, and then 3 cardio. I am not someone who can have a rest day, and I completely advocate rest days. I promote them. I say to people, it's really important to let your body have a rest. But I'm one of these people, I have to mentally train. Like, I can't explain to you, it's now for me, it's more about the mental benefits than the physical benefits. Yeah, it's great that I'm building my shoulders, or I'm focusing on a particular back, abs and shoulders at the moment. But for me, it's so much more than just sitting there and just, you know, working out. For me, it's a journey, and it makes me feel more confident. It helps me spiritually, mentally, physically. It helps me more than just working out. It's my me time. People say, how do you get up at 5 a.m, eat, then train, or take a shake, then train? For me, that is the most important part of my day. It sets my tone right, it sets my mood right, it focuses my mind. I am one of these types of personality traits. I've now understood that I wake up and I'm literally running at 1,000 miles an hour, and my mind is literally like, oh my God, it won't stop, it won't stop, it won't stop. But at the end of the day, that is something that I am dealing with and I'm trying to deal with. Where do I want to go with, you know, where I am? I want to see muscle development now. It has taken me 4 to 5 years of, I've always been active. I was always active. Like, I danced, and then I took a year break, and then I danced, and then, you know, but it's taken me this long to see where I want to go with this. And, you know, my journey will be coaching and helping people. And yes, I am studying for a personal training qualification, but I'm just doing that as an add-on and to advise people legally. But it is all about the holistic approach and making sure that people are understanding what that actually means and how people can understand it, because it's all great me reading these scholarly articles online, but now I really want to help people, and that's my vision, that's my journey, that's where I want to go. When you lose so much weight, everyone, well, most people I speak for have some type of body dysmorphia, and that is something you have to deal with. Body dysmorphia doesn't necessarily mean you literally look in the mirror and you see someone else, which, you know, is kind of the generic term for it. But for me, it's more you were predisposed as a child to being slightly larger, or for me, it was like being the slightly bigger kid, or, you know, it didn't help because I've always been quite tall. I'm 5'7", but it didn't help having that. And that's always in the back of my head. And I'm now battling, like, or do I want to be small, or do I want to gain muscle? And I think everyone needs to know genetics plays a massive part of like where you hold fat, where you hold muscle, and the symmetry of things. Like, I've learned along the way that it's really important to make sure you speak to professionals or someone that knows what they're doing. Stepping foot in the gym for me, it took me like 2 years to actually just walk in and not care. I used to care what people thought. I used to go to the gym with makeup on. Like, it was just a whole journey. When you are losing weight, the key points for me would be, it took me a long time, and the longer you prolong that weight loss, so the slower you do it, the more sustainable it is in the long run, because the less perceptive your body is to gain it back. All these crash diets, crash pills, slim teas, shakes, I'm not saying I haven't done them. I've definitely done the shakes, and I'll put my hands up to them, and I've done certain things that I definitely shouldn't have, but they are so unhealthy, and they are a diet. When you are losing that amount of weight, it is a lifestyle change. You have to be ready to implement it part of your routine. Just as you brush your teeth, I actually go out and work out too. Like, it is, you need to find what works for you. Are you a morning worker-outer? Are you an evening worker-outer? It generally depends on where you sit yourself. When it comes to exercise, I don't necessarily like this word, but I like movement. You just need to find what works for you. So if that be yoga, Pilates, walking, you know, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, MMA. For me, starting with an MMA kind of background for weights, because they had a weight section there, it really gave me that ethos of, when you are lifting a weight, especially as a woman, and my coach Dan, he said to me, it's so funny you're like this. You could give, so put in perspective, if I'm about, I don't weigh myself, yeah? So if I'm about 53 to 58 kilos and I'm picking up a 20 or 25 kilo dumbbell, to me that's just a number. It doesn't faze me. For a long time it did. I'd be like, oh, that's too heavy, or oh, that's not. For having that MMA background and making sure that I had surpassed that first initial mental barrier, that was so important for me, because now I literally look at weight, I'm like, yeah, cool. If I can't lift it, I'm like, what's going on? Why can't I lift it? I get frustrated. And it is all about, like, I'm a big advocate for weights. For me, I always have to be, you know, doing something, and weights gives me that option. But for some people, you know, for example, my mum, who's, you know, I speak about quite a lot, she loves a bit of Pilates, and that works for her, and that's fantastic. You just need to find what works in your routine. I just suggested to my little sister, why don't you try rollerblading? Like, it's a form of exercise and you actually burn a lot of calories. Also, having an autoimmune disease or any type of disease that can predispose you to weight, such as a thyroid condition, it is something I'm going to go into a lot more and understand what I can do to prevent it. Yeah, so I hope this video helped. I hope you enjoyed all this selection of photos, but it is a journey and we're all in it together. And don't forget, like, we've all been there, and obviously gyms and things like that, or whatever movement, you just need to find what works for you. Having a holistic approach in life isn't necessarily the wrong or the right answer. It's just finding what works for you in the long run. So it is bringing that element of, yes, it's not just physical, not just mental, but it's spiritual as well. And that's my message. I want to make sure I'm advocating positive relationships with all 3 or 4 of those healthy balance equation, and implement it into a routine for everyone. It isn't that hard. It's just finding your feet and deciding where you want to go and what you want to achieve. You just need to search from within, and that definitely can help portray in the future of where you want to go. So I hope you liked my little how I lost 112 pounds. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, as I post at least once a day, and I'm putting a lot of effort into my Instagram at the moment. But I would really like it if you subscribed here, please. Just hit the subscribe button down below and click the notification bell to see all my regular uploads. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.